Welcome to the Secrets for a Happy Life podcast. My name is Petra Bitenc, and today you're gonna meet Hussein Hallak. He's a Damascus-born, Canada-living serial entrepreneur, former Launch Academy mentor who guided thousands of founders over the years, and an author of a really good book that I encourage you to read, to buy and read, The Dark Art of Life Mastery. Over the next hour, we're going to dive into 5 big ideas, and those are the toughest truth, marry the question, not the answer, the art of saying no, that is super interesting and good to learn how to do that, slow down to speed up, and what that really means in real time, and from happiness to purposeful joy, because we all want to feel that joy, but what is the true joy? Settle in, the wisdom starts now. It's really nice to speak with you. I read your book. I was really impressed by the graphics, by the way that you set the whole story and everything. But before we dive in, on your profile, you are presented as a writer, entrepreneur, and relentless explorer of life's toughest truths. And I'm really curious, when you look back, think back, what would you say was the toughest truth that you realized, learned till now?
Oh, wow. That's a brilliant question. I've never been asked that before. Well, great to be here, Petra. I really am looking forward to a great conversation. And I think I've always thought that somehow there is someone that's going to save me. Like, if I just met the right person who cares enough, who's willing to give me money, or give me access or something, everything will be resolved. Like life's problems will disappear. And I think the toughest truth that I had to learn is that, first of all, nobody gives a shit. And life's, I'm allowed to say that, right? I can express
You are,
myself.
of course.
So, and life doesn't give a shit. Like life is indifferent to us. It's what we make it to be, rather than let's say there is a set path, or like it's all written in the stars, and there's a plan for me. This was the toughest truth, because before that realization, I could basically blame all of the things that are not happening. Well, that person, because I didn't succeed, because I didn't have like that person, like the same amount of money. And maybe it's true. I'm not saying that's not true, but when it's a comfortable thing to blame, and then you have to face that, no, I have a huge responsibility in my life, and I can make my life, of course, with limitations, what I need it to be. That put a huge burden on me, and I had to come to face that. I'm an adult. I make my own decisions, and I have my own choices, and those are the ones that will have the biggest impact on my life. It was a huge accountability and burden, and that's like a very uncomfortable truth that I had to come to terms with.
Interesting. When you said that, I was like, oh, that was me. I think at least in my case, when I grew up, my parents wanted to do everything instead of me. And then I kind of anticipated that the whole life is going to be like that, that somebody will just jump in and do something instead of me and just save me from some troubles that I'm in. But yeah, realizing that we are accountable for our own success and that we need to put the work in, it's tough. It's really tough truth. You have such a lovely graphics in the book. Did you make this, or like any special memory creating them or crafting them or choosing them? Because they are amazing. They're really lovely.
Thank you. Well, the reason I chose the book to be the way it is because I wanted reading the book to be an experience. My most, I think, treasured memories are the ones where me and the love of my life would be walking, my wife right now, which I'm very lucky to have her. We'd be walking down in a museum, the National Museum in Damascus, or a gallery, and we'd be chatting while looking at art. We'd be talking about anything. So that's why the book actually touches on all kind of different topics. So it's meant to be like a conversation. And it's meant to be, while you're going through that conversation, you look at art. So because that memory stuck with me, and it's like I can come back to it at any time and kind of forget the world, because it was like we were in our own little bubble that, and we're enjoying and we're interacting, and sometimes the artwork sparks the idea. Sometimes what we're talking about, we see the artwork through that lens. So I wanted a similar experience, and I went, and one of the artists that I reached out to because I loved his work, Antonio Piedade, who's a Portuguese artist. I went out to him and said, listen, I would really love if you created the art for the book. Of course, I'm going to commission him and pay him, but I wanted him to love the book. So I gave him the book to read. He said, I really love the book, and he sketched a few things, and that's what sparked it. So it's a co-creation, which is how I wanted it to be. So the book is me as a writer, but it's also him as an artist expressing that writing.
Yeah, because it seems like when I was reading it and seeing the pictures, like they have a lot of symbolism inside, and it really, like, I could see, okay, this is the chapter and this graphics is like perfect for this. So it's really, yeah, like you said, walking through a museum and just enjoying both the text and the pictures and everything. And I felt when I was reading it, like I'm reading, like you are explaining your life journey through the pages. Is this correct? Did I get the right impression? But what I wanted to say also is that I like that you didn't wrote it as a typical hero story. It's a little bit different. Is I found myself in many chapters, and I think people can also easily find themselves in many chapters. Yeah. What was the impulse to write a book?
Yeah, the COVID came around. I've been trying to write a book forever. I wrote like 4 of them and I threw them away. And the reason is it wasn't actually like lack of completion or my imperfection. It was actually one core thing, is that when I wrote them so I can become an author. So they were kind of a means to an end, in the sense, like I wanted to say, I'm an author, I have a book, look at me. So I wrote them as a strategy, let's say, for me to gain some notoriety and say I'm an author. And some of them halfway through, I was like, I have no connection to the book. And one of the things that has always been true in my life, that even though when I forced myself, I'm not above, let's say, the let's say superficial elements of life. I like spotlight. I like people to shower me with praise. I love all of that. So I wanted the title of an author, and I wanted to have a book. But somewhere along the line, the problem with me is that once I lose connection with something, it's very hard to force it's the hardest thing ever to do something that I don't believe in and I'm not invested in. It's not that it's the work. The work can be the hardest, but if I believe in it and I have passion towards it, I'll complete it. So I lost, for those books, I kind of lost the kind of interest. So I stopped writing them. But when COVID came around, I had a kind of that existential experience where, like, I might die. Actually, I know this is a real thing. Like you might die anytime, but COVID kind of put that in saying, oh, this is something I can't stop. Like I can, be careful while crossing the street. I can take care of my body, but like, this is something that it's like, this is a pandemic. I might die at any moment. And I'm seeing people, dropping dead and like, which is unfortunate, of course. So I was really, really afraid. And the biggest fear that struck me at the time is I will leave my kids without any of my wisdom and knowledge that I worked so hard to gain. And I was mentoring people at the time. I used to work at Launch Academy, which is the #1 incubator in Western Canada. And I mentored hundreds of entrepreneurs. And it was a great experience because I felt that my life amounts to something. It wasn't like I'm smart, they're not. It wasn't like that. It was like, oh, all of the hardships that I went through, all of the failures, all of the challenges now means something because I get to help some people. I get to put it into because before that, it was like, why did it have to happen to me? But when I'm mentoring people, it was like, oh, I can make something out of it and I can help others. And this can be like a platform for others. And it was such a rewarding experience. So when I felt that I would leave my kids at the time, they were 16 and 13, I would leave them without anything that if I'm gone, they would have no access to that experience. And the other people that I didn't get to mentor would not have access. That was the kind of the motivating factor to start writing the book. And I meant it to be, if you don't get a chance to meet with me, and if I am attempt to kind of encapsulate my life experiences in a way that would help you build yours, not as a memoir. I didn't want you to know me. I wanted you to benefit from me. There are some areas where you get to know a little bit about my life, but mostly it's about you, what choices you want to make. So I wanted that book to be like that. I wanted it for my kids and for everyone else in the world. That's why I made it a Creative Commons. I wanted it for people to be able to take it, build on it, and make something out of it. So that was kind of the I would say, the spark that drove me down that path.
Yeah, it was, yeah, that's nice. That's why I'm making all these podcasts. To not yeah, really, because
Yeah.
you can work with finite amount of people, but when you just write something or do something online, then many more can hear what you have to say. And but I'm curious, why the name The Dark Art of Mastery?
Yes.
Because it felt like really far from dark, when I was reading it. It wasn't like heavy or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends. Some people would consider, let's say, was it the second or the third chapter where I speak about like then you die. Some people might consider it like, oh, that's dark. But I think, well, the art aspect is because life is an art, is not a process. It's more of a take on the self-help industry, which I love, by the way. I owe a debt of gratitude for all the great books that I read about different aspects of life that helped me become, these were my mentors when I didn't have real people to mentor me while growing up in Syria or working in Dubai. Because like the mentorship culture is more like a Silicon Valley, I would say, thing, and kind of like a Western thing, which I love. Not that there is nothing like that in the Arab world, but it was mostly, we didn't have like a startup culture. We didn't have like, you can build your business. Most people go in towards working in a job, for example, and there's teaching, not the mentorship, somebody who's successful who would take of their time to help you without any expectations of, let's say, benefiting from you. That culture is not yet developed at the time. So, but what I didn't like is that there are these rigid ways of like, here's the best way to be, to be productive, and like 1, 2, 3, and you get 4. For some people it works, but for a lot of people it didn't, especially someone like me. I was like, the things that I face in life don't usually apply. A lot of especially growing up in the Middle East, a lot of the softwares, a lot of the resources, none of them I had access to. So none of these kind of worked for me the way it worked. And I had the ability to strategize and take pieces from here, and piece them together. A lot of people don't. And the problem is when you take something and try to apply it and it doesn't work, and here's someone who millions of copies are sold and it doesn't work for your life, you think something's wrong with you, which I used to think. It's like, oh, something's wrong with me. I can't apply this. It doesn't apply to me. What's wrong with me? And I would blame myself. So I wanted kind of a guide that doesn't blame you and puts the kind of the wheel or the guidance and the choices back in your hands and give you sort of a guidance, which is what mentorship is. It gives you strong guidance and leaves you space for you to make your own choices. And I love that. And I wanted a book that includes elements of self-help. It talks about productivity, but it talks about it as if your friend will talk about it. It's not like, let me tell you the process that I studied based on psychology, which is very valuable, by the way. I'm not debating that. But for many people, it doesn't work. And it's not the first thing that you want to read. Plus, it's hard for someone, what I noticed when I'm working with someone, like to read a whole book on productivity, a whole book on something, like you have to read 10, 20, 30 books to cover, let's say, the different aspects of your life. It's like, why can't we have one book where it gives you an introduction, just like what the mentor would do, and guide you through it, and then you know what to choose. So I felt it like that's a good starter, and that's why I wrote it the way I wrote it. And that's why the art aspect. The dark part is because you're kind of feeling your way through it. You don't know where you're going. It's kind of like driving in the fog. You have to drive a few meters to see the next 30 meters that you see. So you have to take a few steps to see. And I kind of gave it an ode to Harry Potter and, the magic where you put a potion together and it may blow up in your face, even though you have the recipe. So it's something like that.
Really interesting. I love that part, that putting things together, because I also see that if follow one strategy that worked out for somebody, it usually doesn't work out for me. So I'm also the person that takes a little bit of here, a little bit of there, and then just creates something of mine. And yeah, it's really nice that you encourage people to be like a scientist in the lab and to see what works for them and what is their secret potion to success.
Yeah, life is mostly an experiment and a bunch of experiments that you have to do. So that's how we learn. Actually, that's the best way to learn. Is like to experiment on ourselves and kind of discover. That's how we walk. That's how we talk. Everything. So I wanted kind of a reminder of that. That that sense of discovery and exploration. I think it's what makes us who we are and makes life also enjoyable.
Very much. You are writing, you put one whole chapter around saying yes and saying no. And how did you navigate your first no? For me, it was quite hard.
I find it extremely hard to say no. I think I had to learn it from my wife, who's my partner as well. She's extremely good at saying no, especially to me. So I was like, so I think it's hard to say no unless there is some reason that you want to say yes to. I think first you need to realize what limitations you have. And then that's how it worked for me, at least, instead of like the yes or no being because, you know, sometimes it's hard to say no unless we have a good reason for why we're saying yes to something else that needs the time. And that's why I wanted to link them together. It's like no is a yes for something else and a yes is a no for something else, because there is that balance. And if it's hard for you to say no because you don't want to anger people, or you are a people pleaser like me, I like to leave everyone feeling great, I have to connect a reason to the no. And that became my best way. I didn't say no at the start. My no was an escape of the yes. So I would say yes because I was like, oh, of course I will help. And then I will start to weasel out of the agreement. And then my wife taught me this, because she's extremely like a very committed and someone with integrity, that when she says something she's going to do, you absolutely has to do it. And I'm like, no worry, like everything's fine. And I was like this kumbaya, everything will be fine. And she said, no, you're like, every time you say yes to something and you make a promise and you don't deliver, that eats away of your credibility. And you can do that for yourself, but I'm attached to you. We're partners in the same business. You can't do that. So she held me accountable and she said, no, everything we have to say, we have to deliver on. And then it became difficult to say yes to things that I knew that I didn't have the time to. And since I have to deliver on the promise, and I started, it was around the 2007, 2008. And it was through my education on the value of trust. I was reading a book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey. Brilliant book. And it's about how you build trust. And trust is about certain behaviors and like saying what you do, having integrity, being whole, doing what you said you're going to do, walking the talk kind of thing, and how important that is, and how you degrade trust really quickly when you don't do that. And before I was like, like I would say, well, me and Petra are friends, she understands. I will have all these excuses in my head, and I'm really, really good at making up those excuses. I put all my intelligence into making up all these strategies and excuses. I think you talk about strategizing as well in some of your videos. So that's how I used to escape it. And then when there was no escape, no was more like, not because I'm capable to say no. It was either I say yes and I'm burdening myself and I know I can't deliver, so it's going to be a detriment to my trust, or I say no right now and I explain it. So usually when I say no, I say it's a no because 1, 2, 3. And if we can able to resolve something, it returns to a yes. And sometimes it's a no because there's no match. I came up as well with these rules for working with people. I say, you have to work with people that you like. We have to agree on a vision of the world that we're getting. If we don't align the visions, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, then there's no point. I would say to someone, listen, I like you, but you're going in a different direction that I'm going. And my fear is that if we work together, we're going to have, I'm going to delay you, I'm going to slow you down, or like we're not going to be able to work together. And the last thing is that we leave the world better than we found it. And those became like 3 ways that allowed me to make decisions really, really quickly, and help me to say no. It was hard. Let's put it this way.
You have a very wise wife.
She is. She's probably one of the best choices I've made. I was talking to her the other day, is that the best choice I made is choosing to be with you. We've been together for 30 years. It's one of the greatest things I've ever made decisions on. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah, I think the partner that we choose, whom we marry, is the most important person in our lives. Okay, let's say parents are there, but we didn't choose them, or we did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the people you choose in your life is 100%. Everyone you choose in your life. I remember this book called A New Brand World. And it was written by somebody who was the head of marketing for Starbucks and then Nike, or Nike then Starbucks. And he said, everyone you introduce to the brand, like you add to the company, it's like raising a kid. It will influence the brand. And I kind of took that and say, everyone you introduce to your life influences you in certain ways, because their ideas, their thoughts, even the people you choose to listen to, all of them have an influence on you, and slowly sometimes, or sometimes in a big way. And who you choose to surround yourself with, not only because we have this thing like surround yourself with people who are more successful so that you can be successful. That's one thing, but your friends, the people you hang out with, the people you listen to, these are choices that are the most important choices, because they shape who you are, sometimes in ways that you can never imagine. And if you really want to set up yourself for success, not only choose people who are let's say more successful than you. That's easy. That is if they, because I'll go out on a small rant on this, which is, if you're choosing people who are more successful than you and they will do the same, they're not going to choose you, right? Because you're not more successful than them. So it doesn't work like that rule. I think there's more foundational way that you can do this, which is choose people that you aspire to be as a human like them. So some people you aspire to be like them, in certain areas, not in everything, like certain values. Some people you aspire to speak like them. They have great eloquence. Some people aspire to write like them. So they don't have to like look at one measurement of success. It can be in all aspects. So for me, my partner, she's someone I aspire to be as strong when her commitment to things, like when she says she's going to do something, that's it. It's done, like come what may. I call her, like I call her fondly like a bulldozer. When she decides to do something, she bulldozes across any kind of obstacle. I've never seen anything like it. It's something to aspire to. I'm someone who's like, trying to jump over the wall. It's like, she's like, no, I'll walk through something and I'll make it happen. This is something that caused me to become far more effective in execution. Like when we started working together, we built the last 5 companies together. I became so much better at execution, even though I read, like I would say, tens of books on execution. Just surrounding myself with that person changed everything. So I think that is really, really powerful, that you choose the person that you want to aspire to and work with.
Okay, so let's go back to the book. When I was reading that Unstoppable chapter, when you were writing about questions and how questions have so much more potentials as giving answers, it made me realize, like, when also in coaching, when we ask people questions and they came to the answers themselves instead of we giving them like on a silver platter, those answers have so much more weight for them. And it's true how asking questions, being curious is just so more powerful. And I really love that you address that in the book. Have you have any experiences like that? I know you worked with tons of people that questions had more power than giving them answers or teaching them something.
Yeah, we do that in entrepreneurship, where we recommend that the entrepreneur stick and focus on the problem. There's even a blog post by Ash Moria, who wrote Running Lean, says, love the problem. So it's really when you love the problem rather than solution. When you love the solution, you're stuck because you found the solution and no longer you're in search. And when it's an open question, and that doesn't mean you can find multiple answers for the question, and the question can still remain. Like, for example, what do I want my life to be about? Or what matters most to me? That's one of the most important questions I invite people to ask. Like, what matters most to me now at this moment? Because a lot of times what ends up happening is our life is a result of the questions we asked at the very beginning. Like when we started questioning, and then we stopped asking those questions, and then we're stuck living out the answers to the questions we asked first. So for example, what do I want to do in life? I want to become, a lawyer, or I want to become a writer. And we pursue writing as a career, let's say, and then we never asked ourselves, is that still relevant for me? And I think for me, I've always asked that question, like, what do I like right now? And what matters most to me right now? And that's why I ended up being in a band, for example. I played in a rock band. I loved becoming a singer and a songwriter and a guitarist. And then I fell in love with entrepreneurship and building products. And even in products, I fell in love with building different products because they were all answers to similar questions. How can I bring people together? How can I uplift people? And then when I found a better calling, like when I joined Launch Academy, I went after that calling, even though I took a pay cut. And it was actually one of some of the hardest work that I've ever done, but it was also one of some of the most joyful work I've ever done. If you still open yourself for questions, and you still, as one of my coaches in the past said, get married to the question, not the answer. And you start realizing and seeing far more colors to life. You start seeing far more opportunities in life. You start seeing different answers for the same question. And then it gives you choice, because then you can choose, I choose this path. And then you can ask the same question the very next minute, and you choose a different path. And what that gives you is power over your life. It gives you accountability. It gives you responsibility, and it makes life so much more colorful, so much more joyful. And that's what I wanted people to kind of open themselves up in the book, that life is uncertain. And the idea that you're going to design 20 years of your life based on what matters to you today doesn't make any sense, because, if anything, right now, the way life is unfolding, every month is giving us something completely new that we never even thought that's going to happen. So how are you going to deal with that unless you are open to that way of thinking?
I like to question myself every 6 months at least. Is this the path that I really enjoy still? And usually I get mostly yes. You're good, just go on. But sometimes it's okay, let's just do a little bit detour and do something else also, not just what you're used to do. And just 2 days ago, that also reminded me when I was reading your book, like, oh, this is really important. I was just in that rush. I need to do something. I need to make posts. I need to put something on Substack. I must to do. And then I was like, okay, stop. You're feeling like really overwhelmed right now. Is this really that you need to do that? And I was like, no. And this is that mastery of knowing when to slow down. And you wrote also about that, when to slow down, and when you think that you need to really hurry, it's really important that you slow down, and then you will go much faster. How do you distinguish when to go all in and when to slow down? Because I think this is like a fine line, which decision to choose that you make a progress.
Yeah. I think it's a great kind of pickup that you picked up. Actually, it's one of the core, most important elements, is that I think it's a combination of asking yourself what matters most to you. What is the one thing that matters most to you right now? Because a lot of times we say, well, this is important, that is important. Like, a lot of things are important, and quickly we get overwhelmed. And our answer is, let's move with massive speed, because if we move with speed, we can catch up and do almost everything. And it's a combination of something that I think Brian Tracy says it, which is never let the most important things be at the mercy of the least important things. And that stuck with me, because I'm guilty of at the very beginning of my life letting the least important things be, control my life. Like, I wanted to do everything, and I lost track of the important things. And when you lose track of those important things, they have a big impact on your life that you can't just fix. For example, your health. You can't just work through, like 16, 18 hours for several months eating pizzas. Trust me, I did that. Eating just pizza and fast food, I was like, when I get there, when I finish this, everything will be all right. And then I will take care of my health. Because what's going to happen is life, and that's the other component, is that life doesn't give a shit, and your body doesn't give a shit. When you're tired, and it's going to kind of stop functioning, and you can't do anything about it. So to be smart, slowing down is not just about slowing down the time. It's about being thoughtful about what you want to do. If something really matters to you, you have to take the necessary, let's say, preparations to make sure it happens. So an example of that, if you really want to jump off, let's say, an airplane, people who are professionally want to do it and want to do it again, make sure their parachute is done well. They make sure that they have safety procedures in place. They are the most stickler for the details. They take the time, to do that extreme thing they want to do. And even though for the outsiders, like, oh my God, these people are reckless, they're risk-taking, whatever. Yeah, because the risk they're taking is so big, the preparations for it is so big as well. anybody who's done any sports, any effort that involves a level of effort that is high, knows that there's so much preparation, so much work in the background. And that is what I mean by slowing down. You need to take the time and do the preparations to do the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. Is this also something that you teach people in your 3-step method, that reality check lens, content, constraints, choice?
One of the things I teach people is that there are different methods that you can do. Is like, you have to take a step back first and evaluate. And that doesn't mean you have to, stop doing what you're doing. Sometimes you can do it while you're doing something, like while you're in a rally. One of the other coaches, I consider a lot of people coaches, they might not have been, professionally coaches. Like, you might say something right now is like, oh, okay, so I consider you a coach because you've helped me with something. One of the people I worked with, she used to be a rally driver. And she said, actually, to go fast, sometimes a rally driver has to go slow so that they can take a safe turn, so that they can move fast. Because if they stay in the same speed, they will be off track and they're out of the race. So that kind of stuck with me. And I think that is why I like to always phrase things in 3 steps, because it's easy for people to remember. And it's also simple enough, but not too simple, like, oh, do this and everything will be fine. So I'd like to break it down. And that's why I like to teach people that things like, take it in 3 steps. What are the 3 steps to do that? That's always a question I ask. What are the 3 things that we can do right now to get us there? And people can think of those. If I ask them, like, what are the 10 things you need to do? People will come up with 3 and then they struggle with the rest. So I like to always put it for people like that, because they feel it's simple enough. And it's also enough of a plan. Like, it doesn't sound made up, you do this and everything will be fine. It's like, oh, I have 3 things to do. So it requires some work. And somehow our brain responds to it. So I like also to give advice that even if you didn't know it, it sounds almost like common sense or logical, to the point that people, I think, yeah, I can do that. And that is, I think, immensely powerful, because it's not just about new information. You need to give it in such a way that people feel that they have a grasp of it, that they can't, and they don't have to come back to you all the time.
And they are not overwhelmed by all this work that they need to do, small steps. Yeah, love it. So apart from your book, you lived pretty interesting life growing up in Damascus, creating wealth in Dubai, then moving to Vancouver. If you think back to your childhood, did you imagine yourself growing up like this? Or what's the most surprising thing that happened to you or that you achieved, and that your little Hussein would be like really in awe?
Yeah, little Hussein. Yeah, I'm still am little Hussein, because my name is taken after my uncle, who's Hussein Hallak, and he was actually a massive figure. He's kind of like the Che Guevara of the Arab world in a way. So he participated in every like anti-colonial revolution in every Arab country. So like kicking out the colonial powers. He was 9th grade when he got shot in the shoulder protesting the French occupation of Syria.
Oh, wow.
So he's like that kind of figure. So I was always little Hussein in a way. So now that you mentioned it, that kind of sparked that. But what I thought when I was growing up, I wanted to help people so badly that I wanted to become first a doctor and build a hospital that is free for everyone. And I don't know what the impetus actually that, but I was always, I think, inspired. I love movies and I'm inspired by the hero journey. And everything I got from the hero journey is, it's not that I wanted to be the hero, but I've always thought of being a hero as more of a responsibility. So while I love the spotlight, but I love the spotlight to give it to something that is empowering to others. It's always been, I don't know where it came from, but I think from reading a lot into that history, I really loved when people did something great and it had a great impact on people. So that's what's always stuck with me when reading those stories as growing up. I love to read stories. I love to read writing. And I saw one of the core stories that stuck with me is we had in our building, we had like 5 floors, and one of the mid floor, there was someone who's abusive of his wife. And one day, like we heard the screams of her, that he was beating her. And I remember this vividly. I think I was like 12 or something. And the men in the building came together and kicked the husband out of the home. They basically and threatened him and say, if you come back, like you're not gonna, hey, this is his house. Now, remember, like today, nobody would do that, but that's what they did. They went and they came together as a community of that building, and they kicked him out to protect his wife. And she remained forever grateful. Like even when she moved, she would visit with us. And that kind of stuck with me, the kind of community. And I've always thought that I love the idea of community and working together. And I'm always kind of driven by that. So these are the things that shaped me. So, and I wanted to be an astronaut, all of the cliches. I wanted to be an astronaut. I loved being a fireman. And I loved the idea of growing up to be a doctor. But then while growing up, what ended up happening is these things, there's no kind of, in Syria, there's really not a glass ceiling, there's like a solid cement ceiling for everything you want to dream of. So I couldn't be, I was studying to be an engineer, but I couldn't work in integrated circuits, because Intel, there was the factory in the US and a factory in Israel. I'm never going to work there. So everything that I wanted in science, in achievement, didn't exist in Syria. So I was like, I let go of that. And in a way, it was more of a blessing, in the sense that I started working with what's possible. So any opportunity that came to me, like, for example, I wanted to be a rock star. I wanted so badly to be a rock star once I got into rock and roll and rock music. Well, in the 90s, early 90s, I was like early 20s. And I wanted so badly to be that. But aside from now, there's no Spotify, there's no internet at the time. So there's no way that you're going to travel to the US to be part of, I mean, even if you were in the US, part of the music industry, which we know, I read a lot about it at the time, that it was, very prohibitive to be one of those massive stars, even though you're talented. So that was how I thought. So when the opportunity came to be member of any band in Syria, and get any chance to be in front of the microphone, I said yes. And I didn't even believe I had a good voice. I just had great English accent, better than the people around me. So I was like, okay, I'll sing because I have a great accent, and I trained my ass off. And I became one of the top singers, to the point that I was asked to sing and dub movies, Disney movies in Syria. So I learned, I think what I got from there is that the current opportunity that exists right now and the choices I have right now far more surpass the dreams I have. Not to let go of the dreams. I still dream of being a rock star, by the way. And when nobody's looking, I put up the rock music and I dance and I pretend to be Ronnie James Dio on stage. But so I'm never going to let go of that dream. And I still have my guitar and I play when I can, and I still enjoy that. However, what I learned is that choices in the moment is what makes the person. And those are the ones I have the most power of. And I don't have to let go of my dreams, but I also don't have to be stuck to them or feel bad about them. I can feel great about the choices I can make in the moment and the power I have in the moment. And that's why I write.
Brilliant answer. Thank you for that. I have to be mindful of our time, but sure. I would love to ask you, what is your secret for a happy life?
Ooh. The secret for a happy life is never to pursue happiness. Happiness for me is like, I used to have, and sorry, all my questions have to go on a kind of a tangent, but I had this vision board, I had on it climbing Mount Everest. The cliche of cliches as like the best human accomplishment. I had the Mercedes SLS, one of the most beautiful cars that you could have, red, of course. And I had Tony Robbins as like the ideal coach at the time to be like, had the most successful coach, arguably, and all of that. So I had all of these things on it that I wanted to be. And these were represented speaking at TED, at the ultimate speaking engagement. And those represented to me the maximum pivotal moments. And what I realized in life is that, first of all, I let go because of the question that I asked, what matters most to me? And what's the one thing that matters most? And the answer was a happy, healthy family now, not later, not someday. So I let go of that someday aspect of it. But also I realized that we have moments of happiness, something happens, you eat, you were craving a cake and you eat it and you're like, oh my God, I feel so good. And you have a moment of happiness. But then if you continue eating, I love cheesecake, for example, and you eat the first piece of cheesecake, then the second piece, then the third piece, and then you're like, I can't stand cheesecake. There's a moment where more of something doesn't mean better. So I looked for something, what is it that I want that can be sustainable? And the joy is for me, I mean, it may be semantics for others, but joy for me is a far more, I think, more tangible feeling. And joy can come even in moments of pain. Like when you're training to achieve something, you're in pain. When I'm writing, actually, and I'm struggling with a piece, I'm in pain because I hate it. Why is it not working? Why can't I find the right word? And I'm editing. And then but you're doing it because you're going after something that matters most, that you're willing to suffer through the pain, and it turns to joy, the joy of accomplishment, the joy of doing something that matters to you, the joy. Relationships are some of the hardest things. The book, it took me 4 years, and even like at moments where, you know, the artwork didn't work or the format. I mean, that was a moment of existential, like we worked with a company and the format didn't work and we have to repeat all the format, and that meant 2 months of waiting. But it's the joy of, you know, I'm working towards something meaningful. And that is what I pursue right now. So that's my secret. My secret is I pursue the things that matter most to me, to the point that all of the pain in life turns into purposeful pain, which translates to, I would say, joy. And of course, don't get me wrong, I love a life without pain. I love a life where everything is perfect, but that's unrealistic. Within the life that we have right now, within the humanity that we are, and the humans and the kind of beings that we are, this to me is the closest that I found to experiencing joy on a regular basis, working on something that is purposeful, surrounding myself with people that I'm willing to give my life to and all of my effort to, going after causes and standing up for things that I believe in all the time. These are the things that bring me immense joy. And no matter how, you know, disruptive the world is, no matter how, you know, sad sometimes, I find joy in committing myself to something that is bigger than me, that is far more meaningful than me. And that is my wish for everyone, because it's a life that is irreplaceable and unstoppable indeed.
Yeah, I feel the same. There is no day without the night, so we all need to go through valleys and mountains to get somewhere. Anything else that you want to address our audience today? Where to find you? What would you like to, any message for them?
Absolutely. Get the book, obviously. It is available right now for even electronic version for almost nothing, like $2. It's not to make me rich, but get the book so that, and please share with me how it impacted you, how it impacted your life. I would love to learn the stories. I would love to learn for my second book. I'm working on several other books that I want to add value to people. So I would love to get feedback. I would love to hear stories and how it impacted them. That's the best thing you can do. And even better, if you're able to, like, instead of helping me, if you're able to help somebody else. Commit your life, if nothing, not just the book. I mean, like, commit your life to something bigger than you. Commit your life to help other people, because that's how the world becomes better. So that's my wish for everyone. You can find me at searching Hussein Hallak, or The Dark Art of Life Mastery. You can find it, I think, everywhere. You can go to my website, follow me, and engage with my work, and share your work as well. And thank you, Petra, very much for a wonderful interview. I didn't expect any less. I love your work. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate you for being here, and it was a really nice talk. I enjoyed it a lot, and we'll put all the links in the show notes. So have a wonderful day, and yeah, good luck with all your future projects.